How to set yourself up. How to set yourself up for success in 2023. Peter, I'm not sure, and I'm not sure about others there, but my background has been in professional sport. I was head coach of the Australian cricket team for 1999 to 2007, and prior to that, I was professional head coach for the Queensland team. And I suppose that set me on a path where I learned a lot of things about running teams, high performance, world-class culture, individuals, leadership, and so on. And so I've taken that into my own business, which I've been doing for the last 15 years, Buchanan Success Coaching. Excuse me for one moment. That happens to be a phone call that I'll have to take later. I've been doing that for some 15 years now. And again, like all of us, I guess, we've been faced with a myriad of different things that have beset us as business people, as sports people, just in the general community. And of course, the most recent one being the pandemic. So in the course of meeting with businesses and talking with business leaders, I've just got a whole range of different things, little topics that come up, things like, defining purpose, not only for the leader or the individual, but for the organisation. What's it here for, why we're here, and what's the reason for why we're doing what we're doing. Just how do we create rules for high performance, or should we create rules for high performance? What about your mindset? What about belief? How do we instill that in the organisation? What about our shareholders, our stakeholders? How do we continue to provide them with an optimistic outlook about our business when things are not as good as we would like? Because kind of a lot of times businesses are just there trying to survive. How do we get all our staff pulling in the same direction? How do we mobilise those people either in-house or sometimes external to go in the direction that we want them to go in? And particularly if you're a business owner, how do we get them to have the same sort of feeling and passion for the business as we do? Other things just aligned to that is collaboration, cooperation, not being selfish in your approach, not looking after myself, but looking after my work colleagues. How do we cope with stress and pressure? How do we have difficult conversations? So the list can go on about all the sorts of things that are happening in business and in sport, or indeed most sectors. But that's why I really believe that sport is just an incredible lens or microscope or even a petri dish in which to look at all these problems and issues, because sport confronts them on a daily basis. And the beauty about sport is that it tends to condense all these things into a short period of time. So it gives us that opportunity to really look at what works and maybe what doesn't work, and then be able to transpose that into our working life. And indeed, right at the moment, because of my passion for cricket, I mentioned sport generally, but I have a real passion for cricket. There's an interesting series. Australia has just begun a tour of India, a test series over there, and already lost the first test. So I think over the next few weeks, it'll provide us with some really incredible insights into a range of those issues that I've just mentioned, and maybe more. But just about, how do they, the Australian team, or indeed the Indian team, how do they create world-class performance? How are they dealing with the conditions that they are facing? How do they deal with trying to achieve outcomes to obviously win a test series? How do individuals contribute to that? How does the leadership of that team, whether you're winning or losing, how does it actually either turn the losing around, or if you're winning, how does it maintain that winning performance? So pretty interesting series ahead. And again, I'll probably make mention of the fact that I was coach of the last Australian cricket team to win over there in 2004. In fact, Australia has only won one series over there since 1969, which was at 2004. So anyway, enough about the cricket, because there will be people that are really not interested in cricket. So let's head to the topic around setting yourself up for success for 2023. And I'm just going to share my screen here. And hopefully that's looking reasonably good. Sinead will give us the idea that it's all up there. Now, this might look a little bit of a confusing diagram at first, but as I mentioned there before, setting yourself up for success, what is happening in our business lives at the moment, but indeed what happens in a sporting environment, is that there is just a myriad of issues, problems, results, sponsors, selections, injuries, training, schedules, flights, lost baggage, and on it goes. And all these things seem to be all part of your daily life. So how does a business person, a business leader, how does a sports person, a sports leader navigate their way through and make good decisions? Well, I created my framework, my What's Your Everest framework, to help navigate and make good decisions in these times, which is really then the basis of how we set ourselves up for success. So to understand this particular framework, and I will certainly encourage people to maybe ask questions or put some words in the chat box so we can answer those at the conclusion of this small presentation. But firstly, the first part about being able to make some good decisions in your team environment for your business is to decide whether this is around individuals, that's the most important thing at the moment, or is it around the leadership in your business? Or indeed, is it really about the whole of business? Is it really around the whole organisation, the team as such? So they're the first decisions to be made, because that way then it begins to then draw us into the next section, which is the 4 layers. And that is, we need to understand what our base camp is, right? Where our solid foundations are, where our reference points are, what are our basics, and I'll explain this shortly. So if we've got an understanding of our base camp, then what it does, it just really gives us the inspiration to put together our game plan or our business strategy. Could be operational strategy, daily strategy, but from a solid base camp, solid foundations, we get to our game plan. And with the game plan in place, hopefully, it is our winning model. That's the way that we're going to navigate through, as I said, the various issues that we have, and begin to target our summit, the Everest part of our journey. So with that strategy underway, how do we know that we're doing it the right way? What do we see? What's the evidence? And that evidence should be on a daily basis. And these are the set plays. What do I bring as a leader? What do I bring as an individual? Or what do we do as a team that shows that we're actually putting our game plan into play? So these are our set plays, the things that we must do to give ourselves best chance of success. And like Everest, like the Australian cricket team, there is never any guarantee, because there are many things outside our control that will impact upon us on a daily basis that will either distract or deflect our journey towards that Everest. So from our set plays, though, we then need to actually understand, as I said before, whether we are on track to our summit. And that's where the review and the reflection process starts. So let me just dive down into that a little bit so it makes a little bit more sense to you, the viewer, and how this program can work. So if we took one of those strands, so let's say we decided that leadership, our leadership structure, our leaders, etc., we're not really driving the business the way that we want to. Now, that's sometimes a very hard question and a very hard decision to make for the leader themselves, the person who runs the business, person who owns the business, the CEO, and so on, to say, well, maybe, just maybe, my leadership, or indeed my leadership team, or the leadership structures we have in place, are not right at the moment because they're not mobilising the staff well enough, they're not motivating the staff well enough, they're not driving the outcomes that we seek. So the first step then from a leader's perspective is Basecamp, as I said, and the foundation is, do you as a leader clearly understand your philosophy, your principles, your cornerstones, your values, right? So I know when I took over my first professional coaching role, it took me a number of weeks to actually piece together my philosophy. I had one, but I didn't really know what it was. I didn't really understand why I did what I did, why I might say what I say or react the way that I would react. And that all came from a much deeper understanding of what lay inside of me. So, as I said, values, cornerstones, principles. So with that clear understanding of your philosophy, that's the basis for you to lead your staff. That's the basis for you to develop relationships with your staff. That's the basis for you to be trusted. It's the basis for you to have that integrity that the organisation is looking for, because you are who you are and you turn up every day to be that person. You don't turn up on different days to be somebody else altogether. So that becomes really important. That's our base camp. So from there, you'll see to the screen, as you're looking at the screen on the right-hand side, there's something called sacrificial plays. And that, again, is a really important part of either the individual or the leader or the team in terms of forming your base camp. And sacrificial plays are just that. They're the discretionary acts that you as a leader will undertake to service, support team members or the organisation. It has no immediate or direct benefit to you, but it does help either individuals or teams within your business to be able to do what they need to do. It takes time from you, it takes effort from you, it takes patience and it takes tolerance from you, but it's an incredibly important part of your base camp. So with it now, it can lead to your strategy, all right, your overall game plan. And this game plan will include a number of things. I've got a 10-point plan that I have in my program, but to give you an idea of some of the things in there are, firstly, as I said, when I talk about this Everest, you need a vision, you need a clear picture of what the future might be. It should be aspirational and inspirational to everybody in your organisation or your business, but equally it's something that outsiders who may be in competition with your business will clearly understand the impact it's making on the way that your business operates. It clearly differentiates you in the marketplace. Then you'll have strategies on top of that. From there, very clear on role definitions, on job definitions. And again, they need to be reviewed on a reasonably regular basis, because as we see, the workplace is changing dramatically these days, having been through COVID and with remote working and the way that people choose to work these days or have the option of working, and with workers and staff being at a premium in some cases. We need to clearly understand what that role is and how we fulfill that. One of the other pieces of your coaching game plan will be to identify who your disciples are in your organisation. Our disciples are not necessarily formal leaders, although they can be, but generally they will be people within your team or within your business organisation who understand your philosophy, who understand your values, who understand the vision for the business. Yet they may interpret that and deliver that in their own way, in their own time. But nonetheless, they're very aligned with your approach. They're very aligned with your thinking. They're very aligned with the direction that you're taking the organisation. And so those people become very, very critical to helping you disseminate information, priorities, culture, just in inverted commas, the way it is around here. So within a cricket team, an example would be a physiotherapist. A physiotherapist in a sports team spends a lot of time with individuals on the bench as he or she massages, manipulates, and looks after any particular injuries to enable the player to get back on the field and play at their best. And so that person spends a lot of one-on-one time, and in that one-on-one time, it's not necessarily always about cricket. It could be about a whole range of things in their personal lives and so on. But where opportunities present themselves, the physio is one of those disciples, and they must be aligned with your thinking, because they're the person who can also influence the direction of that individual, so that benefits the team or benefits the direction you're trying to take the team. Other things that will enter into your 10-step plan will be things like the politics of your organisation. Every organisation, every business, every sporting team has a set of politics, and it's very important to understand as a leader how those politics play out and where you sit in the politics. And are you a person who is necessarily skilled at playing a political game or not, or somewhere in between? And of course, that's a pretty important decision to make, and it will still come out of your philosophy, because again, in terms of delivering trust and a strong relationship, if you're seen to be a political leader, maybe that will impact upon that relationship, and that might be quite difficult then for you to manage those people. So anyway, they become part of your set plays, and which then leads to the next step in the process. And of course, this is quite a fluid and dynamic framework. Just doesn't necessarily go one step, second step, third step. It's mixed around quite a deal, but there's a process to go through. And the last one is around the review and reflection. And in talking with a lot of leaders and working with a lot of leaders, this is one area that I think they spend very little time. And in fact, if I went through all these steps to peak performance, one, I'm not sure about them thinking very clearly about their philosophy, albeit that they have one. I think they're reasonably sure on game plan most of the time. A lot of times, though, they then don't deliver on that game plan with set plays that give them a chance for success. And then, more importantly, though, they really don't spend a lot of time on reflecting on how they performed that day or those last couple of days. Because again, the reflective process, the most impactful way of reflecting is to do it as quickly as you possibly can. And I'm sure all of you who are on the screen or in this webinar tonight, if I was to ask you right now, think about today and what happened. You know, I think suddenly one or two things will jump out at you, some of the things that were highlights, maybe some of the things that didn't go quite right. But as you know, through the course of the day, there was lots of things that went on, and lots of things of which you were involved in, making decisions, influencing people, or indeed trying to do the other, standing back and allowing others to get on and do their job. So lots of decisions were being made by you that impacted upon the way that the business operated. And so the reflective process, then the longer that we leave it, the harder it is to recall some of the really important things that sometimes sit between the lines. You know, the words that are spoken, it's not necessarily always the words that are spoken, but it's the meaning and the intent that sits in between those words. That's really what you're trying to tune into. So same for yourself. How did I deliver on my philosophy today? How did I deliver my value sets, my principles? Was I true to those today? Was that delivered in the right way in that conversation with that person? Did I avoid having or giving some hard feedback to one of the individuals that really required that? So that's the reflective process, because that feeds back into your game plan, that feeds back into your daily winning model. And that is also a checkpoint for your base camp, your foundations, because if I haven't quite got those basics nailed down, I need to know that what they are, so that I have those reference points for whatever I need them. So look, time is coming to an end, because I wanted to allow some time for question and answer as well as chat, but also just so that you got a bit of a glimpse at what success or building for success can look like. What is a framework that I think is a very, very robust framework, as it served me exceptionally well over, as I said, 15 plus years of professional sport, and has done so now in my business for 15 plus years, not just for my business, but for those that I interact with. So that, as I said, is a little bit of a glimpse. At the end of our question and answers, if there are any, if there's any chat, we'll pop up a QR code, which gives you the opportunity then to, if you want to speak to me further, or indeed if you actually had events or conferences coming up, there's an opportunity to book me through that. So I'm going to close that part of the presentation down, and we'll move to our Q&A. And I don't know, Sinead, whether we've got anything in the chat. Maybe we haven't, but Andrew and Ryan and Peter and the others that are there, if there's any questions that you have at the moment that are on your mind, just please unmute yourself and ask away. We've got a few minutes left. Nothing forthcoming at the moment. All right. Well, look, I think we can close the webinar there, but I'll click to the QR code. So, as it says, jump on there. You'll get a strategy session with me, but also it gives you the opportunity also to, and I'll talk to you about maybe some of the ways in which I can get involved, either with you, your team, or your business, your organisation. So make sure you get that down. We'll also be sending the links out for you to have that as this is being recorded for later on, and to be able to share with other people if you so desire. So look, thank you very much for joining us this evening, and we will be sending out another message about our next webinar, which is due on the 15th of March, about the same time. So please look out for that one. But in the meantime, look after yourselves, take care, and we'll see you hopefully on the 15th of March with a few of your friends. I could probably stop,
John.